Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Walkthrough Radio Show with Kevin Walker and Jason Collins right here on Never Had It So Good Sports Radio. Okay, Walk, what's going on today, man? How you doing?
All is well, Jay. All is well. Beautiful day here in New York, man. Great Saturday of football. I know we're going to dive into that, and got some big time games today in the NFL as well. Can't wait to dive into it. How are you doing this morning, my brother?
Everything's good, man. Everything's great. Like you said, yeah, man. If you love football, this is the show for you. I'm going to take everyone through all the college games from yesterday. K Walk's going to get you all squared away for the NFL today. So we got a lot of great stuff coming. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching us on YouTube at the Walkthrough Radio Show, K Walk did not disappoint again this morning with the t-shirt game. He's rocking the Sandlot today, a classic. So K-Walk coming through again today, man.
Trying to keep the theme alive, Jay. Trying to keep the theme alive.
Yes, sir. Hey, K-Walk, you mentioned the other night about the home run thing going on in New York. Now update.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not following the baseball that closely. Update me on that. Is he going for a judge? Is this going to be a Yankees record? What is this if he hits 61?
Yeah, his judge is going to tie at 61 with Roger Maris. It's a Yankee record, and it's also an American League record as well. If you
Okay.
looked at all of
Okay.
the home run records, it's mostly held by National League players. So yeah, so it's both a Yankee record and an American League record at the same time.
All right, gotcha. And I know they play tonight against the Red Sox, if I'm not
Yes,
mistaken.
sir.
So
Yes,
maybe he'll
sir.
knock one over the fence tonight. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right, man. Let's get into this college football talk. A lot of wild games yesterday, as you
Yeah.
mentioned off air. Some of these top rated teams, they escaped, but didn't look necessarily great yesterday. But let's
Yeah.
start with the Gators and the Vols. We both
Yeah.
thought Tennessee would win this game, but kind of like I thought Florida played pretty well. But what were your thoughts on this game, man? What would you take away after watching it?
Yeah, Jay, you definitely hit the nail on the head with this one in our predictions. When we were talking about it earlier. Florida played a lot better than I thought they would, and that has a lot to do with Anthony Richardson. We're talking about Anthony Richardson throwing for 453 yards,
Yeah.
threw two touchdowns, first two touchdowns of the season, which is kind of scary. And he rushed for another two. But the thing about it is they just couldn't stop Tennessee, man. They just really couldn't stop Tennessee. And Florida needed each and every possession to score in order to not only be in the game but to win the game. And they did that. I think they only punted once. I think that was the only punt in the game when Florida punted. They came down and they did have that Anthony Richardson fumble, which ultimately was the difference in the game because they did come back and score a late touchdown, and then they recovered the onside kick as well.
Yeah.
They just I'm going to say as a Florida Gator fan, and I'm going as an optimistic, they didn't lose the game, Jay. They just ran out of time. That's what I'm going to look at. That's how I'm going to look at it. But just a great performance by Anthony Richardson. We saw a different Anthony Richardson. We saw that Anthony Richardson that we saw in week one against Utah. And I didn't realize he didn't have any touchdowns throwing touchdowns prior to going to yesterday's game. But just hats off to Florida, the way that they played ultimately. I just think the Florida Gators just don't have enough depth there, Jay, to be honest with you. So I think they'll make a bowl this year. They got Eastern Washington next year, which is a very winnable game.
Yeah.
Next week, I should say, very winnable game. So I'm very impressed with how they responded from the previous two games.
Yeah, I was too, man. And you're right. Tennessee's offense is really good. So
Yeah,
it's almost like you have to get into a scoring matchup against them. Who can outscore who? But
yeah,
you're right. That fumble, man, when they were down around the 10-yard line, that really was a huge turning point in the game. But credit Florida. I thought they played well, they competed. Tennessee, as we both thought, does get out of there with the win. But let me ask you about this one, K Walk. And we know hindsight is always 2020. It's easy to go back and look at stuff and say, oh, you should have did this, you should have did that.
yeah,
But when Florida went for two, when they were down, I think if they kicked the extra point, they would have been down 10. They go for
yeah,
two, end up being down 11. Who knows what's going to happen in the game, but they end up getting that onside kick. Now you're trying to make a field goal to tie the game. I again, hindsight 2020, but help me understand, because I've thought about all the scenarios. What was he trying to accomplish there going for two? Being down 9, being down 10, it wasn't really
Same
worth
thing.
it in your opinion? Make
Really.
sense of that for me.
I couldn't, Jay, because at the time it happened, and my wife can attest to this. Heather can attest to this. I'm saying, why is he going for two? 9 and 10 are the same situation right now. You're still going to need an extra point. I mean, a field goal, and you're still going to need a touchdown and an
Yeah.
extra point. Didn't understand it then. Still don't understand it why he did that, and that ultimately came down to because they had to go for two. And then had they, went for the extra point for their one touchdown, and had they, kicked the extra point, then all they needed was a field goal if they recovered that onside kick. So yeah, Jay, I can't make sense of it because at the time I'm not yelling, but I'm saying personally, I'll kick the extra point. I just kicked the extra point. I didn't see the logic behind going for two at that particular point in the game.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, sometimes you can make sense of it, like, okay, they're trying to cut the lead to this or that. But in this scenario, I have no idea why he went for two. It ends up sort of being a big part of the game at the end. Who knows what happens at the end?
Right.
Florida knows, oh, we only need 3 to tie this thing up versus we got to try to score a touchdown. So that was a head scratcher for me. I did not understand that, but nevertheless, Tennessee wins a tough SEC matchup. But I do think you're right, K-Walk. I think the Gators, the better days are ahead for the Gators. I think they're going to recruit, add depth. That's going to be a program that people don't want to deal with in the next couple of years for sure. Let's go to Clemson and Wake Forest. Again, a back and forth game, ends up going into overtime. Clemson gets the win, but it was shaky. Yeah. I mean, I think we both had them in our top 5 last week, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. How did you see this one, K-Walk?
I just saw it as a team, meaning the Wake Forest. They're just unbelievable, man. I mean, that guy Sam Hartman is just he had a phenomenal game yesterday. I'm talking three over 330 yards, 6 touchdowns. Like you mentioned, back and forth game. I really thought, Wake Forest lost that game as opposed to Clemson winning that game. I thought Wake Forest was in control of that game for the majority of it, but Clemson found a way. DJE, I'm gonna call him DJE because I really can't pronounce his last name yet. But he played a lot better than I thought he would, for sure. I keep calling for Cade Klubnik there, for Clemson to make that change, but DJ came out and played a heck of a game, and then he got them into overtime, and that was the difference there. Dabo Sweeney is he found a way, Jay. He found a way, but I really thought that Wake Forest lost the game more than I thought Clemson won the game for sure. But great game nonetheless.
Yeah, man. Wake Forest was in control of this game. And I bet when they go back and watch the film today or tomorrow, whenever they do it, they're going to feel like one got away from them. But you're right, K-Walk. We talked about DJ a couple weeks ago saying, I don't know. I mean, everyone loves this backup. He played pretty well yesterday. Do you think he has played well enough to kind of silence the critics, at least for now?
Yeah, Jay, I think this is going to be a week-to-week thing for DJ, especially when the critics are involved. I mean, it's going to be like, what have you done for me lately type deal with DJ for the remainder of the season. If he comes out and plays the way he did last week, the critics will be silent. If he comes out and plays like he did in week 1, and he's like people, and you saw, Cade come in there and lead them to a victory, then you're going to hear that aspect of it. But I think this is going to be a week-to-week thing, and it's going to be based on his performance for sure, Jay.
Yeah, it's interesting because even though you look at his numbers, it looks like he played well, and he did. I don't want to take anything away from him, and I might be being overly critical here, but I feel like some of those balls that were completed could have went the other way too. Like he threw some of those balls up, and his guy was able to come down with it versus the Wake Forest defender. So some of those throws could have went the other way. It worked out for him yesterday, but we'll keep an eye on it. But he definitely played well enough, at least for now, to hold on to that starting job. But I think Clemson has NC State next week, so that could be a very interesting matchup as well.
NC State looks good.
Yeah, they look good. All right, man. We talked about Notre Dame when they were losing. So we got to talk about them now getting a big win against North Carolina. I did not think they were going to win this game yesterday. I really didn't, but I think ultimately North Carolina's defense is just really bad, and that that it's
That's
gonna be
to say
hard
the
for them to
least, Jay.
stop anybody. But got to be impressed with Notre Dame going out there getting the win. What'd you think of the Fighting Irish yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, I just think they did a great job of taking advantage of that defense of North Carolina or lack thereof. I mean, we're talking about a defense that gives up 36 points a game. Granted, I think they score like 50 points a game, but nonetheless, I mean, you have to take advantage of that Carolina defense again or lack thereof. And I think that those guys, I mean, Drew Pine did a great job of doing that. Marcus Freeman put him in a great position, to do that as well. North Carolina did go up early, so it was kind of like, are we seeing another Notre Dame letdown? But again, that North Carolina defense just wasn't there. I mean, it's just invisible, Jay. I don't know what it is about this defense, or the coordinator and how is he still there for sure, but. Notre Dame did exactly what they're supposed to do against a team like this. They gave up a lot of points too, Jay. Keep that in mind. They gave up 32. So they got to be mindful of that as well. But putting up 45, I mean, that's expected to happen against that North Carolina defense. But giving up 32 is also something they got to be wary going forward as well.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think Notre Dame's out of the woods by any stretch of the imagination, but Marcus Freeman does get his second win. And well, maybe he heard us talking last week. His facial expressions on the sideline, he looked a little bit more calm this week, a little bit more in control. Maybe that's because they were winning as well, but he
for sure,
more like a head coach to me against North Carolina than he did in some of those other weeks. So Notre Dame gets a win. Let's talk about Ohio State, man. I don't know how much of this when you saw last night, but they beat the brakes off of Wisconsin. Wisconsin, obviously they're not going to necessarily overwhelm you with their athletes, but one thing they hang their hat on is they play good defense. I think Ohio State scored touchdowns on the first 4 drives of that game. It almost looked like they were, running through a walkthrough or something like that. What'd you think of the Buckeyes, man?
Yeah, just the Buckeyes being the Buckeyes. I thought it would probably be a more competitive game, but as like you mentioned, I think it was like 28-0 in the first quarter or the first quarter and a half. And when I'm watching this game, I'm going back and forth watching other games, and I peek over. I keep seeing these guys scoring, and I'm like, okay, wow, black shirts look good out there. They would have that blackout, but yeah, I was very impressed with Ohio State. I still believe that this team has the best offense in the country. Not necessarily best team, but I think they had the best offense. With C.J. Stroud, and they were even without the young kids, the starting receiver there. But Marvin Harrison Jr. he stepped his game up and did what he does and been doing all season. So very impressed by Ryan Day, C.J. Stroud, and that offense for sure. And Wisconsin they were just overmatched, Jay. And then that's when Ohio State, if you're a team that has national championship aspirations, you have to beat a team like Wisconsin to make a statement for sure.
Yeah, and they definitely did make a statement. And you're right about CJ Stroud and that offense, man. I know a lot of people talk about Bryce Young, and rightfully so. He's a fantastic player. I think CJ Stroud is better than Bryce Young. I really do. I think by the time the season is over, people are going to be talking about that. And it's amazing when they have some of their best receivers out, and it's just kind of like next man up, and there's no real drop off. It's ridiculous the amount of talent that they have there in Buckeye land, man. So Ohio State is really good. Let's grab a break, K-Walk. But when we come back, man, I want to talk about the University of Miami losing to Middle Tennessee. Man, that was rough. Texas A&M bounces back with a nice win against Arkansas. Also want to touch on that USC game and Oklahoma losing to Kansas State. So we still have some good ones to talk about, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to grab a break and we'll be right back. You're listening to The Walkthrough with Kevin Walker and Jason Collins right here on Never Had It So Good Sports Radio. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to The Walkthrough with Kevin Walker and Jason Collins. Never Had It So Good Sports Radio, also on YouTube at the Walkthrough Radio Show. And guys, we haven't mentioned this much on this show, but not only is the shoot around going through some changes, but the Walkthrough Radio Show is going through some changes as well. over the next couple of weeks, guys, you're going to see some changes to this show. We'll still be on at the same time, but we got some exciting news coming up in the next week or so. So stick around and listen. They're changes, but they're changes for the better. Give you guys some more great content, more good stuff to listen to. So stick around for that, as we've got some really great changes coming up here in the next couple of weeks. All right, K-Walk, let's get back into it, man. Miami and Middle Tennessee. The Hurricanes go down. K-Walk, when we were back playing football, Miami losing to a team like Middle Tennessee would have been unheard of, absolutely unheard of. And they bring in Mario Cristobal. He's supposed to be the answer for this program that's been trying to get back on their feet, but has really just been treading water lately. But they go down, man. I don't know if you saw the game, but more importantly, what do you think is going on in Miami? And can the Hurricanes ever kind of get back to what Miami football used to be?
Yeah, I saw a little bit of the game, Jay. I had about a bunch of them on, and one that happened to be one of them, especially when they went down as much as they went down. Obviously that piques your interest, that upset alert type deal. But yeah, what's going on with them, Jay, is a whole lot of everything and a whole lot of nothing. And a very, it just seems like you just don't know what you're going with this team. I mean, it just seems like there's just no interest in the U. I know they kept saying the U is back, but all I can say is the U is whack. And right now, Jay, I mean, that's all you can say for sure, Jay. I mean, there's just absolutely nothing attractive about this team. I know Manny Diaz, I'm pretty sure he's happy to be out of there and be in Happy Valley for sure. But Jay, the only thing I can think of is to get this team or get this program back to where it was, is have some of these some of these alumni guys, like a Ray Lewis, like a Michael Irvin. We hear Michael Irvin every day talking about his Cowboys, and maybe we get some of those guys back into the fold, and start to attract some more of these some more of these young these young players, these young recruits, whatever they have to do, because obviously what they're doing now is just not working. So maybe they have to just go back in time and find an inspirational guy like a Ray Lewis to be a part of that program, and assign him to some type of consulting deal or something, just to get him in there and lead these guys, inspire these guys to be a part of this. So long, again, like I mentioned, Michael Irvin as well. I'm just mentioning these guys because these are the guys that you see, on a daily basis on either you hear them on podcasts or you see them on NFL Network, whatever the case may be. But start getting some of these guys back, Jay, to help attract some big time, 4-star, 5-star recruits, and back into that program for sure.
Yeah, man, because we know Florida is not short on talent. Some of the best players in the country are in that state for sure. I'm just wondering, like, is Georgia stealing them all? Is Alabama stealing them all? Because
for sure,
it doesn't seem like the Hurricanes are really, when you look at that product that they're putting on the field, there's not that many guys that are really jumping off the screen at you, man. So that's definitely a concern. But you're right. I do think having some of those guys, the Michael Irvins, the Ray Lewis, talk about the program, bring them into the program, do whatever you need to do to kind of build some excitement around this thing. The funny thing is, though, K-Walk, a lot of these kids now that are seniors in high school, they weren't even born when Miami was good. You know what I mean? So they just don't have that same frame of reference. So it's going to be hard to convince a kid to come to Miami when they weren't even around for the glory days of Miami football. So it's going to be really interesting. Twitter is really up in arms about this loss, and they're killing the head coach right now. So we'll see what happens, man. But that's a bad loss for Miami, especially when the expectations were so high. That's a bad loss.
Exactly.
Speaking of another bad loss, man, and I didn't really get to watch a lot of this one. I was really just checking the score. But Oklahoma, a team that people were saying, hey, this might be one of the best 5 teams in the country. They've been inching up that leaderboard every single week. They lose to Kansas State, man. Now, we know Kansas State has pulled off some big upsets before, but man, it just kind of feels like Oklahoma, if they do this every year, they look really good, and then they get beat by someone that maybe they should have won. But what do you think about this loss for Oklahoma yesterday?
I just have two words: Adrian Martinez, man. I mean, that young man, I mean, he transferred from
Yes,
Nebraska and went
yes,
to Kansas State. He was the difference in that game, Jay. I mean, he just did a heck of a job with his arm and his legs, more so with his legs than anything. But he seemed like he's an inspired guy. He left Nebraska, I guess on bad terms, or he used it as motivation, whatever it is. He was the difference in that game, and Oklahoma had no answer for him, Jay. They really didn't. Even though I think it was Gabriel, he had an okay game. They seemed to be responding on the offense, but the defense just had no answer for Kansas State's offense. And that's the difference in that game. And we see, another top 10 team go down, Jay, and we seem
yeah,
like they're just constantly falling and falling. And I think yesterday was a game where some of these teams played down to their competition. Some were able to survive, and in this case, some weren't. So yeah, we're gonna have to look out and see right now. Each and every week you got to bring your A game, no matter who you are. No matter who you are, no matter where you rank, you have to bring your A game. But again, shout out to Kansas State and Adrian Martinez for sure.
yeah. Martinez was great. He's happy not to be in Nebraska for sure.
For sure.
But K Walk, you mentioned that off air, like these bigger teams that are supposed to have these easy wins, either
Yeah.
losing to teams that shouldn't beat them or being in really close games when they shouldn't be. Even
Yeah.
Penn State yesterday, they won 33-14, but it was not
Right.
impressive, at least not to me. Can you put your finger on that, K Walk? What is it about these teams that is it the lack of a big game that they're not prepared? Is it that maybe some of these smaller schools are better than we think? Can you pinpoint, K Walk, why we're seeing these close games and some of these upsets?
Yeah, the only thing I could think of, Jay, is when you have some of these big time teams, they start off their season. A lot of these teams started off with big time games. They were the game of the week. College game day were there. We're talking about this is the game of the week, so forth and so on. This is a rivalry. They get up for those games, Jay, and then when you see a team like this, they kind of get down on it. They just don't seem to they don't have the hype in there. They just think whatever they have on the table, whatever talent they have, is enough to get them by. In a kind of sleepwalking. And some of them think they can still win by sleepwalking. But some of these other teams, these smaller teams or inferior teams, they say, well, in Lee Corso's voice, not so fast, my friends,
Yeah.
because of the fact of the matter is they want to get that notoriety as well. They want to get some of this, some of that publicity as well. They want to make a name off of them. They want to make their name, get their name, make their name off. I mean, make the get their off their game, if you will. I remember playing at Temple, Lance Johnstone. He was one of those guys, man, and he was phenomenal. I was high recruited, came in out of there, but that dude was unbelievable, man. And he said to me, turn around, look, Kevin, you trying to get your fame off my name? Yeah, man. Yeah, because you're the best. So that's what some of these teams are
Yeah.
trying to do. They're trying to
Yeah.
get their fame off their name. So they're not going to back down. And a lot of these teams, these big time teams, have to bring their A game each and every week for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And you're right. Sometimes when the lights aren't as bright, some of these schools may be a little unfocused, kind of going through the motions, and it can cost you. It can absolutely cost you. And as we know in college football, sometimes losing once is all you need. You lose once, you might
Yeah,
be out of it. So these guys
sure.
really have to be ready to go every single week. All right, okay, well, let's squeeze one more game in here before we do our top five. USC and Oregon State. USC won, not surprising, but the score 17-14, that
Yeah.
kind of shocked me when I woke up and saw that score this morning. I couldn't watch this one, man. I don't
Yeah.
have the
Thank you. Thank you,
Pac-12 network.
Pac-12
For some
network.
reason.
Thank you. I thought it was just me. I thought it was just
No,
me.
they got to figure that out, man.
Yeah.
Especially if USC is going to be good. They got to figure that out. But the score surprised me 17-14. I
Yeah.
thought we were going to be in a shootout. I know you didn't get to see it, but what say you about USC?
Yeah, I'm tight about that. I'm sitting here thinking like I have every channel. I can watch every game at any point
Yeah,
in time. I have
yeah,
1,000 channels. Apparently, I need 1,001. But I was so mad that I couldn't find that game. But yes, yeah, the score definitely is surprising, Jay. I think the over under was like 70, and I was like, okay, that sounds about reasonable because you have a
right.
USC team with Caleb Williams and Riley there as well. And they've been running through teams. I mean, Caleb Williams is throwing over 500 yards a game, and they've been averaging as many as that they have. Now their defense has been suspect as well, so
Yep.
they've been giving up a lot of points at the same time as they've been scoring a lot of points. So that's why I thought this was going to be a high scoring game. So when I saw it, it was like 7-0 or 7-0 at half or close to half. I'm like, wow, because I was following it, but even though I wasn't watching it, and I'm looking at 17-14. Wow, so I wish I could have watched it to give you a better
Yeah.
a better give more a better input on this game, but I wasn't able to watch it, so I couldn't see. I can't tell you exactly what happened there. Obviously, you look at the score; it was a defensive game, but that's the only thing I can say about this. But very surprising in the score, but USC pulled it out nonetheless.
Yeah, they get out of there with a win. I guess the one good thing takeaway for USC is that their defense held Oregon State to 14 points. I guess
Yeah,
that's something they can kind of hang their hat
yeah,
on. Because like
exactly,
you
exactly.
mentioned, the defense has been really, really bad the first few games.
Mhm.
So they buckled down and got some stops when they needed to. But yeah, Pac-12
Yeah,
network, get this thing figured
yes.
out. I mean, come
Please,
on. Like you said,
I
every
stay up for
sports
that.
channel imaginable. I'm going through a list. I'm like, where's the USC game? And come to find out, I couldn't get the Pac-12
Seriously,
network,
bro.
and so that was disappointing. But all right, K Walk, we got a couple minutes here. Let's give our
All
top
right.
five. Ladies and
Mm-hmm.
gentlemen, we're not stuck to a top five. We'll move people up, down, depending on how they play, win, lose, or draw. So K Walk, give it to me, man. Who's your top five in college football after week 4?
Yeah, Jay, my top five. I mean, my top five is for this week is the same as my top five for last week. To be honest with you, I mean, I have Clemson at number five. Even though they had a tough one against, we mentioned earlier, against Wake Forest. Oklahoma lost. USC wasn't that impressive.
Yeah.
Also, Arkansas lost as well. So there wasn't really nothing there that would tell me like, listen, get them out of your top five. So I'm gonna stay with Clemson at top five. Michigan, I thought they played very lethargic against Maryland yesterday. I'm watching this game, and it just seemed like Maryland wanted it more than Michigan, but the overall talent from Michigan ultimately prevailed. So I have them at 4. Number 3, Alabama. They did what they're supposed to do against a
Yep.
Vanderbilt team, 55-3. So they didn't move anywhere from there for that. Ohio State, we mentioned that game, and we still thought they looked dominant there for sure against Wisconsin. So they stayed at number 2. And number 1 still is Georgia, Kent State, 39-22. I know a lot of people are going to look at this score and say, well, why doesn't Georgia only beat Kent State by 39-22? What I like what Georgia does is like, what it's a game like this is they'll play like their starters for like the first half, and they'll
Yeah.
bring in some of their second string, third string guys to get some, to get some run, to get some experience, if you will, because they know they'd have this game in hand. So I like what Georgia does there. And Kirby Smart was on the young kid McConkey yesterday. He dropped a punt,
I
he
saw
fumbled a
that.
pass as
Yeah.
well, and Kirby was it all over him. I'm like, wow, this kid. But I hope this kid's gonna be able to sleep all right tonight. But yeah, nonetheless. So again, I have Clemson at 5, Michigan at 4, Alabama at 3, Ohio State 2, and Georgia has at the number 1 spot.
Yeah, man, we've got the same exact top 5 this week. And like you, Clemson and Michigan at 5 and 4, they weren't super impressive, but like you said, there was really no one else that was able to move up and jump over them. So I do
Right.
have them at 5 and 4, but I feel like there's a gap, like 5 and 4, and then a space,
Exactly.
and then Bama and Ohio State at 3 and
Yeah.
2, and then a little more space,
Yeah.
and then Georgia at number 1 right now. So it's a top 5, but it might not be as close as everyone thinks. So those are my top 5 as well. So ladies and gentlemen, if K Walk and I are on the same page, leave no doubt those are the best 5 teams in the country right now. So good stuff there, K Walk. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, K Walk's going to get you all set for today's NFL action. And man, we got some great games to talk about. So stick around for that. You're listening to The Walkthrough with Kevin Walker and Jason Collins right here on Never Had It So Good Sports Radio. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the Walkthrough Radio Show with myself, Kevin Walker, alongside Jason Collins, right here on Never Had It So Good Sports Radio, and also on YouTube at the Walkthrough Radio Show as well. So please check that out. And like Jay mentioned, there's going to be some changes in the next couple of weeks, but like Jay said, it's going to be for the better. It's going to be a better show. Didn't think that was possible, but we're going to make some changes, and it's going to be. I'm excited, Jay.
Yeah,
I'm excited
me too,
for sure.
Me too.
All right. Yeah, man, good stuff there, Jay. As far as the college football, man, I know we can go on and on about that. Let's talk about the NFL this week. Let's recap Thursday night's game. It was a Steelers Browns game there. Now, Jay, I know the game didn't really, the score didn't really justify the game, or, it was 29-17. The Browns scored a late touchdown because the Steelers were trying to, that lateral, whatever you want to call it, the flea flickers, the back and forth. This a late ditch effort to win the game. But what say you about this game, Jay? I mean, the Browns seem to have that game in control. What is missing from the Steelers? Because you have a Mike Tomlin, you have a Najee Harris, and they have a really good defense. What say you about the Browns and about the Steelers? And is it time for them to make that change from Mitch Trubisky to Kenny Pickett? What say you?
Yeah, man, I'll tell you, with the Steelers, there's some things you're going to get, right? You're going to get a team that competes hard. They're going to play hard every single week. They're going to be buttoned up. They're not going to beat themselves with a bunch of penalties and all that kind of stuff. So I think Tomlin deserves a lot of credit for the way Pittsburgh plays every single week. But you said what's missing. And I'm going to say it, man. I think it's the guts to put Kenny Pickett in the game. I think that's what's missing. Look, Mitch Trubisky, he's fine. He's okay. He's going to be serviceable. He's going to look good at times. He's not going to look good at other times. But really, what risk is there in playing the young kid? He's going to play just as well, if not better, than Trubisky. So that's what I think's missing, man. I think some of the throws that Trubisky's missing on, Pickett's going to make those throws. And then I think if you look at the long game, you're getting your young quarterback experience. So that's what I think's missing. The guts to just play the rookie. Stop trying to give Trubisky a chance. Stop trying to say, well, we'll see. All right, now I don't want to make a change. Just put the young guy in and see what happens. You're going to be no worse for the wear. So that's what's missing, man. The guts to make a change.
For sure, Jay, and this is going to be a competitive division for sure. We thought Cincinnati would kind of put a hold on this, but they're not looking looking good right now. The Browns are the Browns. They're going to be without Deshaun Watson until week 12. The Ravens, that tough loss last week, against the Dolphins. Lamar Jackson can only do so much. So I think you put him in. I'm in agreement with you there. I think you put him in, you give him that experience, and they have some other weapons. I know I mentioned Najee Harris, but look at the receiving core they have. They have Dante Johnson over there. They have Claypool as well. Yeah. And then the young kid that's coming up, another Pickett over there, the one who made that tremendous one-hand catch as well. So they do have some weapons there. And I think if Tomlin pulls that trigger now, you're going to see a different type of energy, because a lot of times that the backup quarterback is generally, the most favorite on the team, and they seem to change the atmosphere, the energy in the huddle. That's why I always say, going back to Clemson with Cade Klubnik, I think it's kind of the same thing. If you bring him in, you get a different type of energy and you get a different type of result. So I think Mike Tomlin, I think he's going to give him one more week, to be honest with you, Jay. So let's see, because I think he knows where they're at right now. They're right in the middle of that division. It's still very winnable, obtainable for them to win that. So I think he gives Mitch Trubisky one more week, and then we're going to see the young kid from Pitt for sure. But yeah, I think they should go that route, and for sure. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, man. And I think too, like it goes back to your point saying, hey, sometimes that backup QB can change the energy, can change the momentum. And like we always say, players know. Players know. So sometimes if a guy is
Yes,
out there and the players are like, well, maybe the guy behind him is better, it takes some wind out of your sail because you're like, we're
for
out here
sure.
busting our butts, doing all the hard work,
Yeah.
but they're playing the wrong guy and it's not helping us win. So I think you're right. If you throw Pickett in that lineup, it's going to give them a boost of energy, some momentum. And I think things could change in Pittsburgh if they do it.
Yeah, Jay, and there's nothing more frustrating as a wide receiver to beat your man on every
Yeah.
play. You beat him on your best routes, you beat him on your worst routes, and there's just no one to be able to get you the ball. I mean, there's no more frustrating thing as a wide receiver. Trust me, I've been there, done that. So yeah, if you can get a guy in there and then it can scheme up different things for Kenny Pickett as well, I think you're going to see a different energy, a different life, if you will, with that Pittsburgh organization, especially the offensive side of the ball. All right, Jay, let's get into our spotlight games here. And the first one I want to talk, I got 5 here. The first one I want to talk about is I want to talk about the Rams at the Cardinals. We kind of touched this on Wednesday on Sports Talk with K Walker and E. Scott. But for our listeners, what say you about this game, man? I mean, we got the Rams again going into the Cardinals. It's a 4 o'clock game here. How do you see this one playing out, Jay?
Yeah, man. I hope all our listeners aren't the same because I don't even remember
Right.
who I picked on Wednesday. but the thing is, man, like the Cardinals are coming off a great win, and Kyler Murray made some great plays down the stretch and all that. But I don't know, man. I just feel like the Rams are going to win this football game, even though they're on the road today. So I like the Rams here. I just think offensively, and I know they've been a little bit up and down. I think offensively, they're going to put everything together today. They're going to score a lot
Yeah.
of points. Even defensively, Aaron Donald up to this point hasn't been as
Yeah.
dominant as what we're used to seeing. So today, I think he's going to play better as well. So I really think the Rams are going to get after it today. High scoring game, but give me
Yeah.
the Rams, man. 38-31. I'm going to take the Rams here.
Okay. Yeah, I'm in agreement with you there, man. I don't know if the Rams, if they're coming off of a Super Bowl hangover, I don't know if that even exists, Jay. But it kind of seems like they're not as hungry as they were last season, especially Aaron Donald, who was just making some phenomenal plays. And it just seems like a double team last season would just not bother him, but now he's seeming like he's
Yeah.
conceding to those. So we just don't see that same energy, that same hunger, if you will. And then you got Matt Stafford, they're trying to say that he has an elbow injury there as well. You're not seeing the same type of throws from him. But I don't know what we're going to get from the Cardinals because I just don't know what we're going to get from Kyler Murray. Kyler
Yep.
Murray, I don't know where his head is at right now as far as
Probably
how
playing some
serious he
video
is.
games.
Yeah, right. Yes. Rumor has it that last week he's playing video games in the locker room prior to the game. And it just seems like he's not focused, Jay. It just seems like he's not into it. But especially getting that long-term deal and that big contract, that might have took some of his focus out of the sale, if you will. But I'm also going to go with the Rams here. I like a high scoring game. For sure. 33-28. I'm going to go with the Rams here. Next game, Jay, we got two of the best of not just quarterbacks today, and that's just of all time. You could put them in your top 5, top 10 of all time, and that's the Packers going into Tampa Bay. We got led by Aaron Rodgers and the Buccaneers, Jay. What we see here is we see 2 great quarterbacks, Jay, going at it. But what we're not going to see is any solid or any great receivers going at it. There's just no one for them to throw the ball, Jay, too. So we might be seeing a lot of play action, a lot of running and the play action off of that. But what say you about this game and how do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, this is a tough one to call, but you're right, K-Walk. This might be the last time we see Brady versus Rodgers, depending on how things play out, obviously playoff-wise,
Right.
and if Brady retires after this year. So this will definitely be one to watch. But you're right, man. No Godwin, no Mike Evans. Julio is a game time decision, which means he ain't playing because Julio never plays. So, I mean, there's no weapons at all for the Bucks.
No.
And the Packers are in a similar situation as well, K-Walk. So, man, I don't know. I think in this situation, I'm going to go with the Packers. I think Aaron Rodgers will be able to maybe make some plays with his legs, get outside the pocket, maybe extend some plays, give guys some time to get open. Whereas Brady, that was never really part of his game, and it's definitely not going to be at 45 years old. So because of that, I'm going to take the Packers here. Give me the Packers 24-20.
Okay, I like that one. Yeah, Jay. I mean, there's just no receivers yet. I think the best receivers that Tom Brady is going to have is Russell Cage coming over from Atlanta, and I think they just recently signed Cole Beasley and just activated him off the practice squad. So I don't know how much he's going to be a factor there. And like you mentioned, there's no Julio Jones. Mike Evans is out with that suspension. Chris Godwin is out, of course, and other than Christian Watson over there in Green Bay, I can't name another receiver that's active right now. I know Sammy Watkins is just put on the IR. He's out 4 games. And this is going to be interesting to see. This is going to be a tough one to call, but I'm going to go Packers here as well. I'm going to go 27-21 Packers. All right, next one, man. I'm going to go. Go ahead.
If you were feeling good, they might have been able to sign you for this one.
Jay, man, you know what, man? I saw my phone ring and I saw it was scammed. I looked at the area code real quick. It didn't match up with Tampa Bay's area code, so I just ignored it. I just sent it to voicemail. So I was hoping, though, Jay. I was hoping. but good stuff there. Next one, we got the Monday night game, Jay. And, we got some good ones here. Monday night is the third one on my list. So it's not the best one in my opinion, but we got the Cowboys, your Cowboys. Like I get used to saying that. I mean, not again, but Cowboys going into MetLife Stadium. We got the Cowboys at the Giants. How do you see this one playing out, Jay?
Yeah, man, I don't think for Cowboys fans, this is going to be a good one. I really don't. I think last weekend they circled the wagons. Dak was down. Everybody in the world was doubting them, saying they were going to get beat. And they kind of all came together and played their best game. I think Monday night they come back to earth. I think everyone goes back to playing how they normally would. And I actually think the Giants are going to put it on them on Monday night. I really do. Wow. I have the Giants kind of blowing them out, K-Walk. I got the Giants 31-13. I think Saquon's going to have a big night. I don't think Cooper Rush is going to play well. Let's write it down, man. He's going to throw at least 2 interceptions on Monday night, and I think the Giants are going to win big. So give me the G-men 31-13.
Hey, man, I can't be mad at that, man. I can't be mad at that, but I want to change my pick, but I'm going to stay consistent, man. And I'm going to stay consistent. And I said that I feel like the Cowboys are going to win this game. I just don't know what we're going to get with Daniel Jones, man. I don't know. I think Michael Parsons and then Michael Parsons is going to have a heck of a game. He's going after, I believe he set a personal goal going after Lawrence Taylor's record. What better way to get, have 3-game sack against the New York Giants. So I think he's going to be motivated for sure. I think it's going to be a simple game for the Cowboys. And also I just don't think they're going to let Saquon Barkley beat them. I think they're going to put the Cowboys. I think they're going to put the onus on Daniel Jones to beat them. I don't think Daniel Jones can do it. I think he can, but I don't think he will, put it that way. So with all that being said, I'm going to go Cowboys here 25-20 in the close game. I might not be able to leave my home for a while because Giants fans are everywhere, Jay, everywhere around me, man. All right, the next game, man, I think this is arguably the best game of the day. And that's we got the Bills going into Hard Rock Cafe, Miami against the Dolphins, Jay. A lot of people are putting this on the game. I'm gonna put this as the game of the week, but the next game is for personal reasons. But the Bills going into the Dolphins, man. The Bills right now are without 4 starters. They lost Micah, the corner there, for the safety, for the rest of the season with that neck injury.
Yeah,
they have 2 starting corners, Jay, that are rookies. And against Tua and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and those guys, Jay, I mean, this is going to be in my opinion, it's going to be a high scoring game. But how do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, man, I picked the Bills on Wednesday. I said I would never pick against them, but I'm changing my pick, K-Walk. Once I found out that they were missing 4 starters on defense, Miami is not the offense you want to play against with a bunch of backups. I just don't think that's the
Facts.
way to go, especially with two guys on the corners that don't have a lot of experience. You
Right.
got to believe that Tyreek and Jalen Waddle are going to have a field day today, K Walk.
Seriously.
So, especially being at home as well. So, as good as Buffalo is on offense and defense, I think the difference today is not having their full defensive roster. I'm going to take the Dolphins, man. 41-38. Give me Miami.
Ooh. Okay. Wow. Wow. Look, Jay, when I made my pick, man, I based my pick off of the Bills being healthy. And before I think yesterday, yesterday morning,
Yeah.
I read that four starters would be out and Michael would be out for the remainder of the season. And they had two rookies starting at corner. Like you mentioned, oh my goodness. I mean, you don't want to do that against this particular offense, especially with Mike McDaniels is there with that offense and the way he calls plays, a la Kyle Shanahan coming out of his coaching tree. But I'm gonna stick with the Bills, man. I still think the Bills find a way to win this game because I always say if you got Josh Allen, you got a chance. And I believe in Josh Allen. So I think he's going to be the difference maker in this game. Also, I like the difference in the game. I just like Bills winning 31-28. So I'm going to take the Bills here. That's going to be an interesting one. It's a 1 o'clock game, so I don't
Yeah.
even know if I'm going to watch another game at 1 o'clock. Other than I'm going to be down to
Yeah.
that one for sure.
Yeah. And K
Last
Wall,
one
let me
here.
let me just
Go ahead.
let me
Mhm.
just shout out Brittany Jones real quick because she
Okay.
alluded to the other night that Tua that game was kind of like a one-hit wonder type of game.
Oh,
So
okay.
Brittany, if you're listening, when Tua lights the Bills up today, I'm gonna be in the text thread if you're listening, Brittany Jones. So I think Tua's gonna have a big day, K Walk. I just needed to go on record with that.
That's fine, man. That's fine. Oh my goodness. I can't wait to read that one, man. But for sure. All right, last one, Jay. We got here. We got the tonight's game, Sunday night game. We got the 49ers going into Denver, Mile High. The Broncos seem like they just can't get it right. There's a lot of miscommunication going on and with that football team right now. I mean, they can't get the plays into Russell Wilson. There's a lot of penalties, a lot of pre-snap penalties there, false starts and things of that nature. And that loss against Seattle was crucial. Two crucial fumbles inside the red zone, a lot of penalties as well. And then they had a mediocre game at best last week. I think it was at the Texans for sure. But 49ers, they got Jimmy G back now. Guys are feeling comfortable with him being there. George Kittle is back after missing the first 2 weeks. How do you see this game playing out?
Yeah, man, you're right. Denver just hasn't looked right. It's hard to say exactly what it is. It's kind of a lot of things,
Right.
but they're definitely not right. But on the other hand, Mile High is a tough place to play. That's not an easy place for teams to come dealing with that altitude and things like that. But I just think that 49ers defense, that's a hard defense to play against if things aren't right, So
Right.
I think Denver's going to have a tough day offensively. I'm rooting for Russ. I want them to get
Yeah.
it fixed. I don't think today is the day that they're going to do that. I like the 49ers, and I think offensively, we're going to see a 49ers team that looks like they're in sync, that's ready to go, that's hitting on all cylinders. And the game plan's probably going to be slightly different with Jimmy G at quarterback than it was with Trey Lance.
Yeah.
And we know how good they looked last week, just putting Jimmy G in the lineup. I would suspect they're going to look even better having a full week of practice, maybe making a few tweaks to the game plan and how they're going to call some stuff. So I think the 49ers are going to look really good tonight. I got them beating Denver, even though it's on the road. So give me the 49ers, man, 31-20.
Okay, good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, I have to agree with everything you mentioned there, Jay. Hopefully, the Broncos don't get it right. I'm speaking as a fan right now. Hopefully, they don't figure it out tonight. Give them one more week to do that. But Russ is a guy that I just thought that would just catapult this team and just leave no doubt. But losing the way in the fashion that they lost to Seattle as well, and in the game that they had last week, it just seems like they're just not connecting right now. But again, hopefully they don't decide to connect tonight. And I do like the 49ers. I'm a lot more confident with the 49ers here. One, because Jimmy G is back. And don't get me wrong, ladies and gentlemen, I'm a diehard Trey Lance guy, but it's kind of like week to week, play to play. You just didn't know what you were going to get with him, but you knew one thing: he was going to get better each and every play. But with Jimmy G, you know what you're going to get with Jimmy G. You have that comfort level with him. You don't have to worry about him running 1,000 times, like you mentioned. The game plan is going to be a lot different than we saw at the beginning of the game last week and the first game. And Jimmy G has his safety blanket back in Kittle. So I like this, and I think the defense is going to feed off of that offense as well. So I'm going to go to 49ers here, 22-17, and hopefully they can spoil. So I believe that. No, I believe they played last week, but spoil the day or the night for Russell Wilson and those guys for sure. All right, Jay, let's give our quick picks here. Got about 7 minutes here. Let's run down. Let's go do the 1:00 games. We got the Bears. We got the Bears going into the Texans. How do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, man. But I actually think the Bears have played a little better than maybe people have expected them to play this year. And the Texans, they feel like they're kind of a mess. I'm going to take the Bears here, 24-17.
All right. Yeah, I'm gonna take the Bears as well, 24-18. I just don't know what to get with the Texans. I mean, and you don't know really what you're gonna get with the Bears. But like you mentioned, the Bears are playing a lot better than people expected. So with that being said, I'm gonna take the Bears 24-18. The next game we got the Raiders at Tennessee, the Titans. What say you about this game?
Man, this one's tough because I feel like both of these teams have sort of underachieved up to this point in the year. But if the Raiders are going to make any serious run at this thing, we know the division that they play in, they got to win today, man. They have to win today. So I'm going to take the Raiders on the road. I know that's tough coming from the West and trying to win a game, but I'm going to take the Raiders, man, 28-24.
Yeah, Jay, like as you mentioned, both of these teams are underachieving right now. And the Raiders, when we did our picks and then we went as far as who would win this division, who would be the best defense, best offense. I said the Raiders would have the best offense in the AFC West, and arguably they're the best division, at least coming into the season. But they haven't been hitting on those cylinders that we thought they would hit on. And then the Titans, excuse me. The Titans, Derrick Henry he's only averaging 3.1 yards a carry, and that's not Derrick Henry-esque. And then they lose one of their top linemen today as well, who's going to be out. So this is going to be an interesting one for sure. It's going to be a close one, but I'm taking the Raiders with you as well, Jay. I'm going to go Raiders 28, Titans 27 for sure. Next one, we got the Chiefs going into Lucas Oil Stadium against the Colts. How do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, I think it's going to be another tough one for the Colts, man. I was watching one of the NFL shows this morning, and Rex Ryan was saying, look, it might be time for Matt Ryan to hang it up, man. That's where people go to retire.
Go to retire, yes, I saw that too.
Kind of feels about right, some of the examples that he was throwing out. So this is not the week to get right against Kansas City. I think Kansas City have a big day. So I like the Chiefs here, man. Give me the Chiefs 38-20.
Yeah, Jay, I saw that same thing. Another thing he added is Matt Ryan is cold as ice. So
yeah, I saw that.
I like that one too. But yeah, I agree. I just don't know what it is. And Jonathan Taylor hasn't been able to run the ball. Obviously, that probably has a lot to do with the lack of Matt Ryan's play for sure. And Jonathan Taylor is arguably the best running back in the game. But I'm going to take the Chiefs. I'm right along with you. I'm going to take the Chiefs here on the road, 30-22. All right. Next game, we got the Lions. Surprising Lions in the way they've been playing, Jay. And we have them going, and this is a divisional game going against Minnesota. How do you see this one playing out?
This is a tough one, man. This is a tough one because you were on the Lions a couple weeks ago saying how tough they were and how that head coach was going to have them ready to go. I was kind of like, I don't know, but you were right, K-Walk. This is a team where you're going to have to play to beat them. They're not giving anything away. And Minnesota with Kirk Cousins, I just don't know who's going to show up. It might be good Kirk. It might be bad Kirk. I don't know. I'm going to take Detroit, though. I'm going to go with the tough, hard-nosed team. Give me the Lions 21-17.
Yeah, Jay, I'm big on Coach Campbell, Dan Campbell there in the Lions, and I knew that they don't have all of the talent. They do have Swift. I don't know how much you want to give credit to Jared Goff, but they have some weapons there. They have some okay weapons, but they're not filled with a bunch of talent, but I think Dan Campbell is the difference maker in there. And that's why I was watching Hard Knocks and I just love the way he was going about his business and how he always had these guys prepared. But with all that being said, I'm still going to take the Vikings over the Lions. It's not going to be an easy one. I think the Vikings had a kind of a setback last week against Philly. I really expected them to win that game, but the Philly came out and showed that they're a better team, especially and looked like Kirk Cousins was seeing ghosts for sure. But I think they have a bounce back week against a tough Lions team. But I'm going to go Vikings 30-23 on this one. All right, next game, Jay. We got the Baltimore Ravens going into Foxborough and against New England Patriots. How do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, heartbreaking loss for the Ravens last week. I feel like they got to bounce back this week and win. It won't be easy in Foxborough. The Patriots, they got a lot going on right now, but I still think they're going to play a good football game. But I'm going to take the Ravens here. I think Lamar Jackson is the difference. Give me the Ravens 28-24.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with you on this one, Jay. I'll make it quick. I know we're up against its clock, but I'm gonna go Ravens 24. I mean, sorry, excuse me, 27-24 against the Patriots. I think that they bounce back from that tough loss against Miami. The Ravens do. Next game, we got the Bengals going into MetLife Stadium against the Jets. How do you see this one playing out?
Man, two polar opposites, right? Jets are coming off a great win last week.
Yes.
Bengals have lost in the last second twice this year. I think the Bengals get it turned around today. I'm going to take the Bengals here, man, 27-21.
Yeah, I agree, man. As much as I love Rob Saleh and that defense, they're going to get after Joe Burrow and that depleted offensive line. But I still like the Bengals just getting it done. I think they have a little bit more than the Jets do right now on offense. So I'm going to take the Bengals 27-19. Next one, we got your former Eagles. I mean, no, your Eagles. I'm sorry, not your former Eagles. See, I can't get used to saying that.
I know. I'm all over the place, K-Walk. I don't blame you.
we got your Eagles going into the nation's capital against the Commanders. How do you see this one playing?
Yeah, man. Like you said on Friday night, I think you got to go with the Eagles on this one. I think they're the best team in that division for sure, and maybe one of the best teams in the conference as a whole. So I'm going to take the Eagles here. Hopefully Jalen Hurts can have a nice repeat performance like he did last week. Give me the Eagles 24-17.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to stay consistent, man. I like the Eagles here. I just think they're just going to have a little bit more than the Commanders. I like AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts to have a great game here as well. So I'm going to go Eagles 28-24. It's going to be a tough one, even that the Commanders are at home and that defense, but I still like the Eagles. Next game, we got the Saints going into Carolina. They see. I don't know what we're going to get with Jameis Winston. He has an injury everywhere, Jay. But what say you about this game?
This is a hard one to call, man, because like you said, what are we going to get from Winston? Carolina, I don't really know what we're going to get out of them either. Man, I think I'm going to take the Saints here, but I don't really have a good reason why, K-Walk. But give me the Saints. Give me the Saints 24-20. Give me the Saints 24.
All right. I'm also going to go with the Saints because I just don't know what you're going to get with the Panthers. Matt Rule right now. I know that the owner gave him a vote of confidence there, saying he's going to allow him to work through it until this thing turns around. I don't know if there's going to be enough though today, so I'm going to take the Saints here. I think Jason Hill will be the difference in today's game. So I'm going to go Saints 21-18. All right, we got two 4 o'clock games here, Jay. We got the Jags going into the Chargers. Justin Herbert, game time decision with that rib injury. What say you about this game?
I'm going to do it, K-Walk. I'm taking the Jaguars, man. I'm
Whoa.
taking the Jags. Herbert's injured. He's a game time decision. Even if he does play, I think it's going to be a difficult injury to deal with. The
Wow.
Jaguars defense last week looked really good. If they can bring that type of physicality, it might be a long day for Herbert. I'm going to do it. Give me the Jaguars in an upset, man. I got the Jags 27-24.
Wow, Jay. I don't know if I'm that bold to do that, man. I don't know if I'm that bold to do that, but it makes sense though. I understand where I understand where your logic is coming from. But I'm gonna stick it, since I still think the Chargers, even without Justin Herbert, is going to be the difference. So I'm gonna give the Chargers to win here, 30-20. If you're right here, Jay, I'm gonna start following your picks going forward. All right. All right. Next game we got the Falcons going into Seattle. This is kind of an even game for me, Jay, to be honest with you. But what say you about this game?
Yeah, this is another toss-up game because the Falcons, they've lost some heartbreakers this year, and Seattle looked really good in week 1, and now they're kind of coming back to earth. I'm actually going to take the Falcons here. I think they got to win one of these close games at some point. So I'm going to take the Falcons 30-27. Give me the Falcons.
All right, good stuff. All right, this is our last one, Jay. So I'm going to go with you there, Jay. And I'm going to go Seahawks 24-21. I just think that they're at home. They have that 12th man. I think that 12th man is a lot more it's a bigger factor than a lot of people want to give credit to. So I'm going to say that the Seahawks will pull this one out. They'll get 24-21, but this is a toss up because you just don't know what you're going to get with the Falcons. And I feel bad for Kyle Pitts, the tight end there, man, because I think he's probably one of the top 5 weapons in the NFL. But as we mentioned earlier, it's tough when your quarterback can't get you the ball, man. It's really tough there. But I still like the Seahawks, man. All right, man, that's all the time that we have. With a little bit of overtime here, guys. So we appreciate you staying with us for sure. Like I do every week, guys, I want to leave you with something. This week, I'm going to leave you with this. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. So for myself, Kevin Walker, alongside Jason Collins on the Walkthrough Radio Show right here on Never Had It So Good Sports Radio and YouTube. God willing, we'll talk to you next week.